They thought it was greener on the other side, forgetting to know that the beginning of every friendship, of every relationship is always very peaceful, very loving, very intimate, very nice, very sweet. In their minds, they thought the other side was more promising, more beautiful, more easy, and even more fulfilling than anything they had ever lived. While imagining perfection on the other side, they turned their attention outward. Not at once, but they started slowly growing with certainty and convincing themselves that staying where they were, that means with you, only meant them settling for less. They started to compare what was real and close to them with what was distant and unseen. And in doing so, they failed to measure things fairly. And what they had in their hands began to feel small, even though it had once felt like it was so much enough. They were chasing what looked promising, what looked beautiful, forgetting that they already had that in their hand. They acted with so much certainty and belief in themselves that they traded certainty for possibility and potential. And they hoped so much that the possibilities would quickly become reality. At first, everything seemed so good that it was enough to justify their decision. Everything was working so well that their decision seemed justified, and that the colors looked brighter. The air felt lighter on the other side, and the change in itself created a sense of excitement that felt like confirmation. They knew they had achieved what they were looking for. But time always has a way of revealing what first impressions hide. And so slowly and quietly, the truth began to show itself. So they began to notice that even the other side had its own dry patches and even had its own difficulties. What once seemed effortless began to require effort, and what seemed perfect began to show its imperfections. So the same patterns they thought they had left behind began to reappear in different forms. The discomfort they thought they had escaped found new ways to meet them because it had never been tied to a particular place. It had been traveling with them. It was a part of them. It was them. They now realized that the difference they had hoped for was not as great as they had imagined, and they began to see that they had only compared reality to illusion. They now began to realize that what they once overlooked had value that could not be replaced simply by changing their own location, and that appreciation is not found by constantly searching elsewhere, but by learning to see what is already present with new eyes. They came to the understanding that growth is not about always moving forward into something new, but sometimes just looking deeper into what already exists, into that thing that you already have. The grass had not actually been greener on the other side. They had only failed to prepare the ground where they were before crossing over. What they once saw as lacking began to reveal its potential, and what they once dismissed began to show quiet strength. Now they are left with memories of what they failed to value. But the good thing is they have learned that no place becomes meaningful without investment, and no situation becomes fulfilling without presence. It is not the crossing over that transforms a life, but the willingness to remain, to build, to nurture, and to understand. Without that, every new beginning risks becoming another repetition of the same dissatisfaction dressed in different surroundings.